the idea of being able to bring some change. Not overly radical change, but changes that I think need to happen.
The royal family is hiding something. Two princes who swore to protect each other are now at war. Leaked palace recordings, shocking physical violence, a racism scandal that rocked the world. One brother is dying of cancer while the other exposes family secrets for millions. What the palace doesn't want you to know will shock you. The truth about William and Harry's feud is finally exposed, and it's far worse than anyone imagined. The story of these two brothers is inseparable from one of the most traumatic events in recent royal history.
Obviously, pretty gutted about the decision. We thought it was going to go our way.
On August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris, leaving behind two young sons who would have to navigate their grief in the most public way imaginable. William was just 15 years old and Harry was only 12. The world watched as these boys, already living under intense scrutiny due to their royal status, faced an unimaginable loss. The funeral of Princess Diana remains etched in collective memory, particularly the image of William and Harry walking behind their mother's coffin through the streets of London. Alongside them were their grandfather Prince Philip, their father Prince Charles, and their uncle Earl Spencer. For many observers, this moment crystallized the unique burden these boys carried. They weren't just grieving sons, they were public figures expected to mourn in front of millions of watching eyes. The impact of their mother's death affected each brother differently. According to those close to the family, Harry internalized his grief in ways that would manifest later in his life. He has since spoken about wishing he had never participated in the funeral procession, describing it as an overwhelming experience for a child of his age. The trauma, some suggest, needed professional support that perhaps didn't come soon enough. William, on the other hand, seemed determined not to let his mother's death define his future. As the elder brother and future king, he appeared to channel his grief into a resolve to honor Diana's memory through his actions and dedication to duty. This doesn't mean he suffered any less, but rather that he processed his pain differently, keeping much of it private rather than expressing it outwardly. Despite their different coping mechanisms, the two brothers were widely perceived to share an extraordinary bond. They had grown up in a family unlike any other, experiencing pressures and privileges that set them apart from their peers. This shared experience, particularly the loss of their mother at such young ages, seemed to create an unshakable connection between them. They were often seen together at public events, appearing comfortable in each other's company and displaying the kind of easy rapport that suggested genuine closeness. Their personalities, however, were distinctly different, shaped in large part by their positions within the royal hierarchy. William, as the heir to the throne, carried the weight of expectation from birth. His life path was predetermined, his future mapped out with little room for deviation. This responsibility seemed to make him more cautious and measured in his public persona, always aware of the scrutiny that came with being a future king. Harry, meanwhile, occupied a very different space in the royal family. As the second son, often referred to as the spare to William's heir, he had more freedom to forge his own path. Princess Diana had been acutely aware of how birth order affected her sons. She understood that while William's life was largely predetermined, Harry would have greater liberty to make his own choices. This wasn't necessarily a disadvantage, in fact, it allowed Harry to be more spontaneous and open in his public engagements, developing a reputation for being approachable and fun-loving. The brothers found common ground in their shared interests, particularly in conservation work, their connection to Africa, and their military service. Both princes served in the armed forces, an experience that seemed important to their sense of identity beyond their royal titles. They worked together on various charitable initiatives, often traveling together for official engagements. These joint appearances were highly anticipated by both the media and the public, as they showcased the next generation of the royal family and their more relaxed, modern approach to royal duties. One particularly significant collaboration was their work with wildlife conservation in Lesotho. Harry had been deeply involved in charitable work there and wanted to share this passion with his brother. Those who accompanied them on these trips noted the genuine affection and understanding between the two princes. Harry himself spoke about William being the one person he could talk to about anything, suggesting a depth of connection that went beyond their public personas. As the years went on, Harry made no secret of his desire to settle down and start a family. He looked at William's life with Catherine and their children and saw the happiness he wanted for himself. However, finding a partner who could handle the intense scrutiny and pressure of royal life proved challenging. Despite being a prince, which made him theoretically very eligible, Harry came with significant baggage. The constant media attention, the loss of privacy, and the rigid expectations of royal protocol made it difficult to maintain relationships. When Harry met Meghan Markle, an American actress known for her role in the television series Suits, it seemed like a perfect match. Meghan was already accustomed to public attention. She was articulate and confident, and she had her own successful career. She seemed well equipped to handle the challenges of royal life. The couple managed to keep their relationship private for several months before news broke in the media. The initial reaction was overwhelmingly positive. The British public, along with royal watchers around the world, were delighted that Harry had found someone special. There was genuine excitement about what Meghan could bring to the royal family. She represented a modern, progressive addition to the monarchy, someone who could help the institution connect with younger audiences and diverse communities. William and Catherine reportedly welcomed Meghan warmly at first. They had watched Suits and were aware of who she was before she began dating Harry. They could see how happy Harry was, and there was a sense of optimism about this new chapter in his life. Harry had always been one of the most popular members of the royal family, and the prospect of him settling down was met with widespread approval. Meghan's background added to the excitement. She had worked with the United Nations on women's rights issues, she was educated and well-spoken, and she wasn't afraid to voice her opinions. Many saw her as a potentially transformative figure within the royal family, someone who could modernize the institution and help it remain relevant in the 21st century. Her biracial heritage was also seen as significant, representing a step toward greater diversity within the traditionally homogeneous royal family. When Buckingham Palace announced the engagement of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the response was celebratory. There was genuine hope that this couple could make a meaningful impact, particularly in engaging with the Commonwealth and younger generations who might feel disconnected from the monarchy. However, beneath this public optimism, tensions were apparently beginning to surface. According to reports that emerged later, William had some concerns about the pace of Harry's relationship with Meghan. As an older brother who had taken many years before proposing to Catherine, William reportedly suggested that Harry take his time to ensure that Meghan fully understood what she was signing up for. Royal life, after all, comes with unique challenges and restrictions that can be difficult to comprehend from the outside. This advice, likely intended as brotherly concern, apparently didn't land well with Harry. According to sources close to the situation, Harry felt hurt that William wasn't fully supportive of his relationship. He interpreted his brother's caution as a lack of confidence in his judgment and possibly as disapproval of Meghan herself. This marked what some observers identify as the beginning of a rift that would only deepen over time. There were other early signs of tension as well. Reports suggested that during a Christmas visit when Harry and Meghan stayed with William and Catherine, Harry felt his brother wasn't making Meghan feel sufficiently welcome. These were small moments, perhaps easily dismissed at the time, but they hinted at underlying issues that would later explode into public view. The dynamic between the two couples, often referred to as the Fab Four, began to show cracks that careful observers could detect even during seemingly friendly public appearances. Besides, cracks in the relationship between the two royal couples became increasingly difficult to hide from public view. What had started as private concerns and minor disagreements began to manifest in ways that royal watchers and journalists could detect. The perception initially was that any tensions existed primarily between Meghan and Catherine, but as more information emerged over time, it became clear that the real friction was between the brothers themselves, with Meghan perhaps serving as a catalyst rather than the root cause. One of the first public indications that something was amiss came during a Royal Foundation forum. The four royals appeared on stage together to discuss their charitable work, and when asked whether they ever disagreed on anything, the nervous laughter and awkward responses were telling. At the time, many brushed it off as typical sibling banter, but looking back with the knowledge of what was happening behind the scenes, those moments take on greater significance. The body language, the quick glances, the careful way they navigated questions about working together, all suggested an underlying tension that the public wasn't fully aware of yet. The Royal Foundation itself had been established in 2009 as a vehicle for William and Harry's philanthropic work. When William married Catherine in 2011, she joined the foundation, and it was naturally assumed that when Harry married Meghan, she would become part of it too. The foundation represented the idea of these four young royals working together, pooling their star power and influence to make a positive impact on causes they cared about. It was supposed to be the future of the monarchy's charitable work. So when it was announced in 2019 that Harry and Meghan would be splitting from the Royal Foundation to pursue their own charitable endeavours, it sent a clear message. The official explanation was diplomatic, suggesting that the two couples had different interests and that their lives were taking different directions, which made separate foundations more practical. William and Catherine would eventually be king and queen, while Harry and Meghan would have more flexibility to pursue their own paths. But those following the story closely understood that this was about more than just different charitable interests. This was a signal that the two couples could not work together effectively. They were separating their offices, no longer sharing staff, and putting physical distance between themselves. Harry and Meghan moved from Kensington Palace to Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, further away from William and Catherine. These weren't the actions of two couples having minor disagreements. This suggested a serious and potentially irreparable breakdown in their working relationship. The situation became even more apparent during Harry and Meghan's tour of South Africa in autumn 2019. On paper, the tour was successful, with the couple carrying out their duties and receiving positive coverage for much of the trip. However, in an interview given during the tour, Meghan spoke candidly about how difficult she was finding life in the spotlight, and Harry made a comment that would reverberate around the world. When asked about his relationship with William, Harry acknowledged that they were on different paths. This was the first time Harry had publicly confirmed that his relationship with William was strained. Up until that point, there had been speculation and reports from unnamed sources, but this was Harry himself, on camera, essentially admitting that he and his brother were not as close as everyone had believed. The carefully maintained image of brotherly unity was crumbling, and Harry had chosen to acknowledge it publicly rather than continue the pretense. The situation reached a crisis point on January 8, 2020, when Harry and Meghan released a statement announcing their intention to step back as senior members of the royal family. The announcement made through their official channels stated that they wanted to become financially independent while still supporting the Queen. They planned to split their time between the United Kingdom and North America, seeking a progressive new role within the institution. The statement blindsided the royal family. According to multiple reports, the Queen, Prince Charles, and Prince William were not consulted before the announcement went public. This breach of protocol was shocking in itself, but the implications were even more serious. Harry and Meghan were essentially trying to create a hybrid role that had never existed before, one where they could be part-time working royals while also pursuing commercial opportunities. The response was swift. A meeting was convened at Sandringham, the Queen's private estate in Norfolk, bringing together the key players: the Queen herself, Prince Charles, William, and Harry. Meghan participated via phone from Canada, where she had already travelled with the couple's son, Archie. This summit, as it came to be known, was an attempt to find a workable solution to an unprecedented situation. The atmosphere at Sandringham was reportedly tense. The arrival times were carefully coordinated so that William and Harry entered through separate entrances, avoiding any awkward encounters before the formal meeting. According to sources, there were breaks built into the schedule to allow tempers to cool when discussions became heated. The Queen, in her 90s and dealing with her husband Prince Philip's declining health, was trying to manage a family crisis while also considering the implications for the monarchy as an institution. For William, the situation was particularly difficult. He was dealing with feelings of betrayal, confusion about why his brother would want to leave, and likely some anger at the way the announcement had been made. There was also the practical consideration that Harry and Meghan's departure would significantly increase the workload for the remaining working royals. William and Catherine, who were already balancing royal duties with raising 3 young children, would now have to take on additional responsibilities. The media storm surrounding the departure added another layer of stress. Every detail was analysed, every statement passed for meaning, and speculation ran rampant about what had caused the split. William and Catherine found themselves not only dealing with increased duties, but also managing the public narrative around a very private family conflict. The term Mexit, coined by the media as a play on Brexit, captured the seismic nature of what was happening. For many, it felt like an abdication in all but name, a loaded term given the royal family's history with the 1936 abdication crisis. Harry had been an integral part of the royal family's public face. He was popular, effective in his role, and seen as essential to Prince Charles's vision of a streamlined monarchy. To lose him and Meghan, particularly in such a public and contentious way, was a significant blow. The Sandringham summit ultimately resulted in an agreement that Harry and Meghan would step back from royal duties entirely. They would no longer represent the Queen, they would lose their royal patronages, and they would not use their HRH titles in an official capacity. They would be free to pursue financial independence, but they would not be part-time working royals. It was an all-or-nothing situation, and they chose to leave. In the immediate aftermath, the relationship between the brothers was clearly strained, but it wasn't necessarily beyond repair. A few weeks after the Sandringham summit, the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey provided what would be Harry and Meghan's final official engagement as working royals. The original plans for the service had Harry and Meghan excluded from the royal procession, a slight that reportedly upset them greatly. William's response to this situation revealed that despite everything that had happened, he still cared about his brother's feelings. He and Catherine withdrew from the procession so that all four could enter together, avoiding the appearance of a deliberate snub. It was a gesture of solidarity at a moment when the brothers could have allowed the hurt and anger to dictate their actions. This suggested that while things were difficult, William was still trying to support Harry in whatever way he could. However, any hope of reconciliation was about to be shattered by what came next. In March 2021, more than a year after stepping back from royal duties and having relocated to California, Harry and Meghan sat down for an interview with Oprah Winfrey. The interview, which aired to a global audience of millions, was explosive in ways that few could have anticipated. The couple spoke about their experiences within the royal family with remarkable candor, making allegations that shook the institution to its core. They discussed feeling unsupported, experiencing racism, and struggling with mental health issues without adequate help. Meghan revealed that she had experienced suicidal thoughts during her pregnancy with Archie and felt she couldn't get the help she needed. But perhaps the most damaging allegation was about racism within the royal family. Meghan and Harry revealed that there had been conversations about how dark their unborn baby's skin might be, suggesting concern within the family about Archie's racial heritage. This accusation struck at the heart of the monarchy's reputation and was particularly difficult for William, who found himself and his family being accused of racism on an international stage. The royal family's initial response was to say nothing, following their traditional approach of never complaining and never explaining. But the pressure was immense, and the allegations were too serious to simply ignore. When William was asked by a journalist during a public engagement whether the royal family was racist, he broke protocol to respond directly. His answer was unequivocal: they were very much not a racist family. The fact that William felt compelled to respond in this way demonstrated how seriously he took the allegations and how much damage they had caused. For William, the Oprah interview represented a profound betrayal. His brother had gone on international television and made claims about their family that were incredibly damaging and difficult to refute without getting into a public back and forth. The royal family has always operated on the principle that private matters stay private, and here was Harry violating that principle in the most public way possible. After everything they had been through together, after all the times William had tried to support Harry, this felt like a devastating blow. The interview also made it nearly impossible for the family to have honest conversations about resolving their issues. Everything said in private now had the potential to end up being discussed publicly, either in another interview or through other channels. The trust that is essential for family relationships has been severely damaged, if not completely destroyed. The period following the Oprah Winfrey interview was marked by an uneasy tension within the royal family. The wounds were raw, the allegations were still being discussed in the media around the world, and the question on everyone's mind was whether there could ever be any path back to reconciliation. The first opportunity for the brothers to see each other in person came under the saddest of circumstances. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen's husband of over 70 years, passed away in April 2021 at the age of 99. His funeral brought the family together at a moment when emotions were already running high. For Harry, this meant returning to Britain for the first time since the Oprah interview had aired. The world watched with intense interest to see how the brothers would interact with body language experts and journalists analysing every gesture and glance for signs of either continued animosity or possible reconciliation. The funeral itself was a sombre affair, conducted under pandemic restrictions that limited attendance and required social distancing. During the procession to St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, Harry and William walked separately, with their cousin Peter Phillips positioned between them. This deliberate spacing was widely interpreted as a way to avoid any awkward interactions or confrontations during such a public and solemn moment. However, after the service, cameras captured what appeared to be a more hopeful scene. Catherine, William's wife, was seen speaking with Harry as they left the chapel, and she appeared to facilitate a conversation between the two brothers. For a brief moment, William and Harry were seen walking together and talking, offering a glimpse of the relationship they once had. It was a small moment, but one that gave many people hope that perhaps the funeral could serve as a turning point. Behind the scenes, there was indeed an attempt at reconciliation. According to reports, after the funeral service, Harry met with both William and their father Charles at Frogmore House. During this conversation, Charles reportedly expressed his distress at the situation, essentially asking his sons not to make his remaining years miserable. It was a plea from a father who had lost his own father and was watching his sons tear each other apart. For Charles, who had always envisioned both of his sons supporting him when he became king, the rift must have been particularly painful. There was another moment of apparent unity when the brothers came together to unveil a statue of their mother, Princess Diana, in the gardens of Kensington Palace in July 2021. The statue had been commissioned to mark what would have been Diana's 60th birthday, and it was fitting that her sons would present it together. During the small private ceremony, there were even reports of laughter and conversation between William and Harry, suggesting that they could at least put their differences aside for occasions that honoured their mother's memory. These moments offered glimpses of hope, suggesting that perhaps the relationship wasn't completely beyond repair. Maybe, with time and space, the brothers could find a way to heal the wounds and rebuild some form of relationship. However, what followed would make any such reconciliation far more difficult, if not impossible. The death of Queen Elizabeth in September 2022 brought the family together once again under circumstances of national mourning. The Queen had been a stabilizing presence throughout the crisis, someone who commanded enough respect and authority that the family had to maintain certain standards of behavior in her presence. Her passing marked the end of an era, not just for the country, but for the family dynamics as well. There were concerns about how Harry and Meghan's presence during the mourning period might overshadow the remembrance of the Queen. William, ever conscious of his role and responsibilities, appeared determined to ensure that the focus remained on honouring his grandmother. In a surprising move, William invited Harry and Meghan to join him and Catherine for a walkabout outside Windsor Castle, where they viewed floral tributes and greeted members of the public who had come to pay their respects. The sight of the four of them together again was striking. It gave the impression of unity at a time of family grief, suggesting that perhaps the Queen's death might serve as the catalyst for healing that so many had hoped for. The brothers stood side by side, both clearly grieving, and it seemed possible that shared sorrow might help them find common ground. However, reports from inside the family suggested that the apparent unity was purely for public consumption. Behind the scenes, things remained extremely tense. The gesture of appearing together was more about showing respect to the Queen and presenting a unified front to the public than it was about any genuine reconciliation between the couples. The fundamental issues that had driven them apart remained unresolved, and the trust that had been broken had not been rebuilt. If the Queen's death didn't provide the impetus for healing, what came next would drive the wedge even deeper. In December 2022, Harry and Meghan released a 6-part documentary series on Netflix titled Simply Harry and Meghan. The series provided an intimate look at their relationship, their time as working royals, and their decision to step back from royal duties. The documentary pulled back what Harry described as the velvet curtain, offering their perspective on life within the royal family. They spoke about the pressures they faced, the lack of support they felt, and the difficulties of navigating royal protocol and media scrutiny. The series included personal footage, interviews with friends and supporters, and detailed accounts of their experiences. The timing of the documentary's release was particularly awkward for William. The trailer dropped just as he and Catherine were arriving in Boston for the Earthshot Prize, William's signature environmental initiative and one of his most important projects. Instead of the trip generating positive headlines about environmental innovation and William's leadership, much of the media attention focused on the allegations and revelations in the Netflix series. It was another example of how Harry's public statements about the family seemed to consistently undermine William's work. While the Netflix documentary was damaging, it was merely a prelude to what would be the most devastating blow yet. In January 2023, Prince Harry's memoir, titled Spare, was published. The book became an instant bestseller, but the revelations within its pages sent shockwaves through the royal family and left William reportedly furious and deeply hurt. The title itself was loaded with meaning, referring to the old aristocratic saying about heirs and spares. It encapsulated Harry's feelings about his position within the family, his sense that he had always been secondary to William, valued primarily as a backup rather than as an individual in his own right. The book detailed numerous instances where Harry felt slighted or overlooked, painting a picture of a childhood and young adulthood marked by resentment and jealousy. One of the most shocking revelations in Spare was Harry's account of a physical altercation with William. According to Harry, William had come to Nottingham Cottage, where Harry was living, to confront him about Meghan's alleged treatment of staff at Kensington Palace. The conversation became heated, and Harry described William grabbing him by the collar, tearing his necklace, and knocking him to the floor, where he landed on a dog bowl that broke under him. This was an extraordinary detail to make public. The idea that the future king had gotten into a physical fight with his brother over family tensions was the kind of intimate, private moment that typically would never see the light of day. For William, seeing this described in a book read by millions of people around the world must have been mortifying and infuriating in equal measure. But the physical altercation wasn't the only damaging revelation. Harry also shared details of private conversations he had with William, including exchanges that took place after Prince Philip's funeral. These were conversations that should have remained confidential, moments where brothers might be expected to speak candidly, knowing that their words would stay between them. Harry's decision to publish these conversations represented a fundamental violation of trust and privacy. The book also contained numerous observations about Catherine that many interpreted as critical or dismissive. Harry described her as formal and somewhat cold, particularly in her initial interactions with Meghan. He suggested that while Meghan was warm and demonstrative, Catherine was more reserved and traditional. He also made comments about royal marriages in general, suggesting that others in the family had married for duty rather than love, which many read as a subtle criticism of William and Catherine's relationship. These characterizations would have been deeply offensive to William, who is known to be extremely protective of his wife. Catherine had faced her own challenges when she was dating William, enduring years of intense media scrutiny and speculation about whether they would marry. The suggestion that she had been unwelcoming to Meghan or that their marriage was somehow less genuine than Harry's own would have struck William as both unfair and disrespectful. Harry also revealed smaller details that reshaped public perception of their relationship. He wrote about how when he arrived at Eton, the prestigious school they both attended, William had told him to pretend they didn't know each other. He described getting smaller rooms at Balmoral, the Queen's Scottish estate, while William always got the better accommodations. He revealed that he hadn't actually been William's best man at his wedding to Catherine, despite public perception, but rather that two other friends had filled that role. Each of these revelations chipped away at the image of the close brotherly bond that the public had believed existed. It painted a picture of a relationship that had been fraught with tension and competition for much longer than anyone had realized. The narrative that their mother's death had created an unbreakable bond between them was being systematically dismantled by Harry's own account. For William, Spare represented perhaps the ultimate betrayal. Here was his brother not only airing family grievances publicly, but doing so in extraordinary detail and in a way that he could not respond to without further fueling the media circus. The royal family's traditional approach of maintaining silence and dignity meant that William couldn't offer his own version of events or correct what he might have seen as mischaracterizations without breaking with protocol and potentially making things worse. The book also put William in an impossible position regarding his future role as king. He knew that having family members willing to publicly criticize the monarchy was dangerous for the institution he would one day lead. The wounds being opened by Harry's public statements weren't just personal, they had implications for the future of the monarchy itself. The publication of Spare and the revelations it contained appeared to mark a point of no return in the relationship between William and Harry. The trust that is fundamental to any close relationship, let alone one between brothers, had been shattered repeatedly and very publicly. For William, who had already endured the Oprah interview and the Netflix documentary, the memoir represented a step too far, a level of personal betrayal that could not easily be forgiven or forgotten. The situation became even more complex when both King Charles and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were diagnosed with cancer in 2024. These were moments when family typically comes together, setting aside differences to support loved ones facing serious health challenges. For many observers, these diagnoses presented yet another opportunity for the brothers to find common ground and begin the process of reconciliation. The fragility of life and the reminder of mortality that comes with cancer, diagnoses often has a way of putting petty disagreements into perspective. However, even these serious health crises did not bring the brothers back together. William did not reach out to Harry for support, and Harry did not publicly offer assistance to his brother during what must have been an incredibly difficult time. The silence between them spoke volumes about just how deep the saddened rift had become. When Catherine's diagnosis was announced, there was speculation about whether this might prompt Harry to extend an olive branch, perhaps to issue a statement of support or to privately reach out to William. But no such gesture materialized publicly. The impact of the rift on the monarchy itself became increasingly visible during this period. With both Charles and Catherine out of public view for extended periods due to their health, the number of working royals available to carry out official duties was noticeably diminished. Photographs of royal events showed smaller groups, and the question kept arising: if only Harry and Meghan were still part of the working royal family, how much easier would this burden be to manage? This practical consideration highlighted one of the most significant consequences of the breakdown between the brothers. The modern royal family had already been moving toward a more streamlined model, with fewer working royals representing the institution. The loss of Harry and Meghan accelerated this process in a way that left the remaining senior royals stretched thin, particularly during health crises when key members were unable to fulfill their duties. For William, the experience of watching his wife face cancer treatment while managing his royal responsibilities and caring for their 3 young children appears to have shifted his perspective on many things, including his relationship with Harry. According to those close to the situation, William has reached a point where he has moved past the anger and disappointment. It is not that he has forgiven everything that happened, but rather that he has accepted the reality of the situation and chosen to focus his emotional energy on what truly matters: his wife's health, his children's well-being, and his future responsibilities as king. This evolution in William's thinking represents a form of closure, even if not reconciliation. He is no longer agonizing over the breakdown of the relationship or hoping for Harry to change course. Instead, he has compartmentalized the situation and moved forward with his life. The contrast with Harry is notable. While William appears to have found a way to put the feud behind him emotionally, Harry seems to remain caught in the past, still waiting for acknowledgement or apology, still revisiting grievances in various forums. The relationship between Prince William and Prince Harry has transformed from one of the closest bonds in the royal family to one of complete estrangement. They went from being brothers united by shared tragedy and experience to 2 men who apparently cannot find common ground, even in moments of family crisis. The breakdown is particularly poignant because of what it represents. Not just a personal falling out, but the unraveling of a relationship that the public had invested in emotionally and that the monarchy had counted on for its future. Many royal observers now believe that the relationship is beyond repair. Too much has been said publicly, too many private moments have been shared with the world, and too many lines have been crossed. William has his own family to protect and a future role as king to prepare for, responsibilities that require focus and stability rather than ongoing family drama. Harry, meanwhile, has built a new life in California with Meghan and their children, far removed from the royal world he grew up in. The tragedy of William and Harry's broken relationship lies not just in what has been lost, but in what might have been. These 2 men, who shared one of the most unique bonds imaginable and who had the potential to support and strengthen each other throughout their lives, have instead become estranged in a way that appears permanent. Their mother Diana had hoped they would always be there for each other, but the reality has fallen tragically short of that wish. What remains is a cautionary tale about family, duty, and the price of making private pain public.